The number of school employees assaulted on the job is rising in Texas, with more than 2,600 assaults on educators reported to the state last year. This week on Inside the Investigations, investigative intern Nina Banks explains what can happen after teachers are hurt in the classroom. Welcome to Inside the Investigation, and welcome Nina to Inside the Investigation. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm very well. Well, I'm a little bit sad because for those of you that don't know, Nina is actually our investigative intern, and she's been with us for months now, and you've been awesome. And her internship is sadly coming to an end. This is your very last, 2 hours probably?
Yeah, basically.
You're going to be at the station. Well, just so you know, she's here today because her story that she's been working on has published this week. And one of the very first conversations that I remember having with you, you came in so gung-ho and you knew exactly what you wanted to look into. And specifically, this was something you wanted to look into because of something from your childhood that always you had like a question sitting in your mind. Tell me how you decided you wanted to talk about this matter.
Yeah, absolutely. So when I was in high school, there was a school shooting at a nearby high school. The teacher was injured, but I was always curious about what supports, what happened to the teacher afterwards. And I really wanted to explore that because I feel like obviously we talk a lot about the students and maybe how schools change, but we never focus on like how teachers are impacted or like what care they can receive.
Yeah. And so, Nina, one of the very first things you did was try to answer the question of how often teachers in particular are being assaulted in class. Unfortunately, we found out this is something that the Texas Education Agency tracks, right?
Yes. So the Texas Education Agency, they track how often school district employees are assaulted. So that includes teachers, custodial staff, all of that. And they track how often they're physically assaulted, sexually assaulted. And so we rounded up that data just from the last school year. And we found that the numbers had risen 58% from the 2018-2019 school year, but 18% from the most recent school year. So the numbers are clearly getting higher. And even from a national survey from the American Psychological Association, we found that the numbers are up post-COVID. So this is a national thing that's going on.
Wow. So from 2017 to 2018 school year to the 2023-24 school year, last year, 58% increase, which is astounding, and then an 18% just in 1 year. And I think that's, you have to ask yourself why that would be, because that's a pretty significant increase. But let's watch the report that we put together so you can kind of get the broad look of what we found. When Tiffany Robinson began teaching in Texas, she never imagined she'd be writing this letter 18 years later.
Gerald ISD trustees, I am writing to formally resign from my position as chemistry teacher at Gerald High School effective immediately. Just a lot of disappointment. You just get worn down.
The last straw, she says, was on a pep rally day at Gerald High School when she says a rowdy group of students eager to leave class got in her face.
Cussing me and telling me, F you, you're going to make me late to my next class. And they were getting up out of their chairs and coming forward, and it was getting ready to get out of control.
By the time the bell finally rang, Robinson decided this would be the end of her near 2-decade teaching career.
I was crying, went to the associate principal, and I told her, I said, I'm done, I'm resigning. I'm not doing this. I'm not taking this anymore.
Gerald ISD officials told us they work hard with campus police and administrators to build an environment where teachers can perform their duties without fear, harassment, or violence. They also said schools need additional funding for security initiatives and mental health resources. The incident in Robinson's classroom stopped short of any physical assault, but new data from the Texas Education Agency shows the number of assaults perpetrated by students against school staff statewide rose 18% last school year compared to the year before.
It's definitely increased, probably for several factors. Zev Capo is the president of the Texas chapter of the American Federation of Teachers, an organization representing more than 65,000 educators.
The lack of behavioral supports, the lack of mental health services that we've seen in the state of Texas, none of our mental health providers, whether it's counselors, social workers, psychologists, meet the recommended student to professional ratios in the state of Texas.
Under Texas law, teachers who are assaulted at school can request what's called assault leave, paid days to recover from physical injuries that can't be deducted from the employee's personal accrued leave. The law says districts must immediately approve assault leave once it's requested. But our analysis of district policies found if a district later determines an incident didn't meet the criteria, the district can retroactively deny the request.
If something doesn't rise to the level where it gets approved, for example, by a workers' comp doctor, then a teacher may actually lose their own personal leave to heal from an assault. Not every assault results in a teacher being hospitalized or needing, acute medical care follow-up. But, sometimes you don't want to go back in the classroom the next day.
KSAN analyzed data from Central Texas school districts between 2018 and last school year. Among the 29 Central Texas districts that responded to our survey, district officials reported at least 340 assaults on employees in that time frame. But those districts received far fewer assault leave requests and approved just 46 requests collectively. Robinson says she hadn't planned on retiring for several more years. But at 56, she's starting a new chapter and a new career in real estate.
I don't want to go back. It's just disappointing. It's just disappointing. The problems have gotten worse through the years, and I don't see it getting better.
So far for this upcoming legislative session that starts in January, lawmakers have not pre-filed any bills to address assaults on educators. There hasn't been any significant legislation on this issue since 2019, when lawmakers added harassment to the list of behaviors for which a student must be removed from the classroom. In Austin, Kelly Wiley, KXAN Investigates.
Tiffany was such a compelling interview, I thought. What stood out to you about her interview?
Well, I remember towards the end we'd mentioned assault leave, and that was something that we were wanting to track, and she just did not know about assault leave whatsoever.
Which is crazy considering 18 years as a teacher, multiple school districts, and had never heard of assault leave.
Yeah, and it's something that's not easily mentioned. I suppose a lot of the school districts we talked to mentioned it in their handbooks, but that seemed to be the only place where teachers could kind of find out about their right to assault leave. So yeah, that was definitely an interesting thing to hear from a very well-tenured educator.
That they just didn't know about it, and that it was something maybe, because part of what we realized in the policy is that they have to request it. Mm-hmm. This is something that they have to say, hey, I'm looking for this, or if they had someone helping them could say, you should probably ask for assault leave. But absent the request, it might go to PTO if they need to take a day off, or sick leave if they need to go to the hospital, or just go on a doctor's appointment, or just take a day.
Yeah.
So I thought that was really interesting that she said that as well. And this didn't end up in our story, but I remember as we were starting to do research on all of this, we were looking at other news stories. One that we printed out a couple here, and one that stood out to us from NBC5 Dallas, that a Corsicana educator said she was blinded by a student who was having some sort of episode in class, which is, I don't even have words for that, but yeah. And then I'm thinking about the Fred Jimenez case as well.
Yeah, absolutely. NPR picked up a story recently about a San Antonio teacher who was recently passed away after injuries sustained after trying to rein in a student. And it's really quite unbelievable. It's like a story that seems to be happening a lot more commonly. And a lot of the teachers just want support from their administration. Just his wife was speaking about how, how heartbroken she was, that like she wasn't even sure of what the entire situation. and it kind of echoes through a lot of the cases that we've been seeing.
Yeah, definitely. I think supports, that word came up a lot when we were talking to Zeph Capo, who's the president of Texas AFT, and from a lot of the educators that we were speaking to. I know you were really focused on solutions, which is what we loved about Nina throughout her internship. She wasn't just focused on the problem, but you were really interested on next steps, how school districts are trying to overcome the rise in assaults that are being reported to the state. What solutions did you hear about through your process?
Yeah, so obviously the first one, the big one, the legislative session is coming up, like just passing new bills, new policy to make sure teachers are well informed of their rights, have supports in the classroom. School safety also, metal detectors. Some people are against it aesthetically, like it doesn't make the students feel safe sometimes. That's what some people say. But some teachers just would prefer it for their safety. They don't know what's coming in and out of schools. And until we get the issue with violence like under control, a lot of teachers are really vetting for metal detectors to get into schools, and we've already seen it implemented in a lot of schools across the state. So it's definitely something that could be like possible up for.
One thing that I thought was really interesting about our interview with Texas AFT President Zeph Capo was that he brought up the ratios between counselors and students and teachers and students, and how that alone, about how decreasing or having more student or more counselors for students to go to can also kind of curb the violence that's happening in general in school systems, and also can promote better safety within school systems. So that was something I found really interesting, and I'll be curious to see how that plays out also if that comes up in the legislature. But Nina, I just want to say we have enjoyed having you so much, and for context, the interns that come into our station work really closely with reporters. We were working hand in hand on this project for the last several months, and all of our interns are spectacular. We have such a good team that finds the absolute best, but it's rare for us to work with an intern on such a big project, and this one was big, a lot of data work, and so we're very proud of you and the work that you've done on this. And if you wish to get online and read more of this, and I really suggest that you do, you can find it on kxan.com under the Investigates tab. The article is titled Rise in Educator Assault. So we really appreciate you listening to us here today. Nina, we wish you so much success in the future, and maybe she'll come back to us eventually. We can reel her back in. But for all of you out there, be sure to join us Fridays for Inside the Investigations, and happy holidays.